In December of last year, the law courts finally gave judgment in the longest and costliest civil action ever heard in London. This is the story of a people called the Banabans.
My lord, the plaintiffs were born on Ocean Island, a very small island just south of the equator. It is 6 miles in circumference and has an area of 1,500 acres.
Nobody ever bothered about this minute place until someone suddenly found it was almost solidly made of phosphate, among the richest deposits in the world. It had 4 villages in which dwelt a very small and peaceable and innocent people. This strange tale begins in 1900 with a bright young New Zealander called Albert Ellis on his way to Ocean Island. Weeks before, he'd found that an old rock propping open his office door was in fact phosphate made of generations of bird droppings, a very valuable fertilizer. It took 2 months to trace the source of this rock to the little pinpoint of Ocean Island. He found a little society living on a sort of Eden, an equatorial island only 3¼ kilometers across. They were great boatmen and fishermen. Indeed, they lived almost entirely on fish and coconuts. Apart from a couple of missionaries, they'd met hardly anyone from anywhere else. They were intuitively kind and gentle, and Ellis was charmed by their welcome. Ellis's tests showed enormous resources of phosphate, so he wasted no time. On the first day, he and his assistant Naylor drew up an agreement signed by a chief. He wrongly took him to be king, but Banabans didn't have kings, who granted him exclusive mining rights for 999 years at £50 a year. Mr. Ellis quickly raised the British flag with, as he put it, its never-failing message of good cheer for the natives. It was good cheer for him, too. Ocean Island turned out to be virtually solid phosphate. Almost at once, the phosphate was being loaded from a makeshift jetty to be shipped to Australia. The simple Banabans joined the game with enthusiasm, loading their own phosphate into Mr. Ellis's ships. Those centuries of seabirds had not labored in vain. The guano seemed endless. Everywhere else, phosphate had become scarce. Ellis's company had blundered onto a fortune. The only worry was that somebody else might move in on this bonanza. So their influential chairman, Lord Stanmore, persuaded the government to annex Ocean Island to the Empire. What was easier in those halcyon colonial days? So, on September the 28th, 1901, a 21-gun salute was fired and God Save the Queen played to an audience of wholly baffled Banabans. By and by, dozens of illiterate islanders were putting their marks to complicated legal documents they had no earthly means of understanding. By 1908, the company's profits were $500,000 a year. The Banabans continued to be paid an average of £16 an acre. So deep and extensive were the mining shafts that it was clear that the land would soon be useless for any human